Of a welcome here, number one. Oh, okay, recording in progress. We thought it would be a really good idea to do a meet the teacher kind of an option for people who have not taken Tarot 365 before or are looking to find out about Astro 101, which will be coming up also in October. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of how these two classes work. Please, those of you who have taken Tarot 365, I did see a couple of you in there. Please bear with me while I explain that. We'll be talking about the benefits, what's to be expected of students, how it works, and how you can get the most out of the classes. Okay? All righty. So who is this Pat Dumas anyway, who's sitting here in front of you? The reason that I have always loved tarot, it's something that I started doing when I was just 12 years old. I picked up my first deck when I was 12, found some books, was self-taught in many ways, learning from a lot of different wonderful readers along the way. And it was back during the late 60s and early 70s when the occult, quote unquote, was just coming into vogue. Some of you might remember this is when the era of dark shadows and the era of all of the 1970s woo-woo kinds of shows that were coming out. What was interesting though was the way they kind of painted tarot as far more ominous than it is. Kind of like the movie Tarot that's out right now. That's not how it works. If you want to have fun at a horror movie. I had read a lot about astrology too, but that was a little bit more challenging to me. I think because I ran into so many places where the information seemed to be at odds with each other, seemed to be arguing or just not agreeing with each other. And I would get lost. I'd go down the rabbit hole and it just wouldn't work out well at all. But my husband and I moved with our son here to South Central Pennsylvania in 2005. And that was when I got a chance to meet the wonderful and late Bill Trivet of New Visions Books and Gifts. He was my first formal astrology teacher, although I had been trying to teach myself all those years. And within a couple of classes, he made it all so accessible that it clicked. And I actually started practicing as an astrologer the following year, which I didn't expect. That was he indicated to me that I was ready, so I jumped right in with both feet. So what I have been a practicing astrologer for 18 years. To give you an idea of what my background in teaching is on that, as I mentioned, I studied with Bill all of his astrology 1 through astrology 4. I have studied with international astrologer Stephen Forrest at 2 of his in-person workshops up in Portland, Oregon. Fantastic classes with dealing with karmic astrology, which is my real love. And also I have done some work with the pair of astrologers. They're Australian by birth, but they work out of Bristol, England now. They're known as Astrologos, Astro, capital Logos. Dr. Bernadette Brady, who is probably one of the preeminent astrologers working with fixed stars that's out there today. And she has a fantastic book on predictive astrology. And Darylyn Gunsberg, her partner, who really taught me some amazingly organic, I guess is a good way to put it, ways to learn how to navigate looking at a chart. So I'm also an experienced instructor. I've been doing this for a while. I started teaching probably in 2010, off and on. I did a full astrology course, which actually, what 2 of my students said, this feels more like a college course, because it is. It's far more intense in terms of the technique than tarot. Just as valid, but a little bit more heavy on the technique. We're going to go a little bit lighter with this particular course to make it more accessible. The big thing that I want to get across to folks is that I'm not necessarily teaching either of these subjects, tarot or astrology, in order for you to become a practicing astrologer or tarot reader, unless you want to be. This is more for yourself so that you can use the deck to be able to do a reading for yourself, do a quick spread, get a quick answer, or some supporting information from your guides on how to work with a particular situation, or to take a quick look at your own astrology so that you have an idea what might be coming up, or when an astrologer, a pro, is talking to you, you know what they're talking about. That's what the goal of these two classes are. I will not, however, say that that you won't ever become a practicing either astrologer or tarot reader. That's up to you. Now, my learning objective is exactly the same as my client objective. When I sit down with a client, I want them to walk away feeling empowered. My whole plan is not, oh my God, I can't believe how much she knew about me. I want them to walk away saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much I now know about myself. That's what the purpose is. That's when I'm working with a client. When I'm working with students, is exactly the same way. I want you as students to walk away feeling just as empowered as you would have otherwise. So let's start with Tarot 365. This is the second iteration. We did this for the first time back in March of 2023 to March of this year. And I have to say, this was a brand new thing that we've never tried before, a hybrid kind of a teaching option. And I thought it was very well received. I think most of my students felt that it was worthwhile. Those of you who took it, feel free to put in the chat whether you got anything out of it. The way this is going to be working, we'll be meeting on the last Thursday of the month, the first one beginning on September 26th. And the beauty of it is it's so flexible. Tarot 365 lets it be the best possible situation for you as a student. We meet either in person, which is at Firefly Hollow. We can field up to 20 people in the classroom for that. We can also meet virtually online, just like now. We've ironed out a lot of the kinks, and we now, after that first virgin run, we have mics in the room. We know how to be able to utilize the sub rooms in Zoom for people to be able to split off and do readings for each other. It really worked out very, very well. And another option, which I find kind of interesting, is the idea that what if you can't attend? No problem. These are recorded so that you can go in onto the platform and you'll be able to take a look at the recording and see everything that you missed. The only thing you miss is the actual interaction. So how is it working? How does this whole thing work? What is it that each of us has to be able to know how to do? Well, the attendance is necessary, even in tarot, because I have to figure out for you, what is it that you are going to be able to do by the end of the time, by the end of the end period of time we're together, the year. The only thing that you need to know, I've adjusted this a little bit from the previous class. In order to receive a certificate of completion, all you have to do is fulfill the requirements of the class, okay? And that includes attendance in person, online via Zoom, or by watching the recording. The next thing you have to do is participate in the weekly discussion questions. And we were a little flexible in the last one. We can't be in this year. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take more than 10 to 15 minutes at most to respond to most of these discussion questions. It's simply something to keep the topic of that month in the front of your mind, keeping you in the know, so to speak. There are optional journal prompts as well. There's optional creative prompts that I offer for artists, writers. I also do bi-monthly office hours where you're able to come in, chat with me, ask any questions you've got. We started practicing giving readings to each other during these as well. We found a lot of my students found them to be very useful, but the only thing that's required is that weekly question being answered. This is what the platform looks a little bit like, okay? So you can see here, this is from the last class, Tarot 365. What I just took a quick screenshot. This shows where all of the different locations for the class recordings are, any handouts that I make available to you, or things of that nature that are materials for the class itself. Under the events, this is where you'd be able to see where each of the class meetings are, in terms of the online Zoom access. Under course community, that's where I'll be posting all of the course discussion questions each week and the journal prompts each week. Here under the chat, this is great. This is where everybody can just talk to each other and get some feedback, see what's going on. The other, between you. So there's a lot that you can access in here. Then for homework, This is assigned the night of the class. At the very end of class, I tell everybody what the assignment is. I answer any questions anyone might have. You have 3 weeks to complete this and send it in. This isn't arduous. We're not talking about, having to sweat blood and tears for being able to get this assignment done. Okay. And so, it's not a pass fail. If you turn in your assignment and look like you've done any kind of work at all, you've passed. What I do is comment on it. I try to give you feedback on what I see based on what you have presented to me in your thinking. See, okay, might guide you a little bit this way or a little bit that way, or just might even say a healthy attaboy or attagirl, depending on what kind of information you've written. And then finally, there's an online quiz. This is something that's sent to you via email, a link. I think it's I'll be using SurveyMonkey again. So that all you have to do is click on the link and go answer 5 questions. Again, this is not arduous. 5 questions takes maybe 10 minutes. So that's what each class needs. This is not a major deal. The only requirement that I ask, actually it has to be so that everybody's on the same page, is that everybody has one version of the Rider-Waite deck. I don't care which one it is. It could be the original classic Rider-Waite. It could be, this is the one that I use personally, the universal weight. I just like the way the colors look to me. A couple of my students were using the Radiant Weight in class this last time. I haven't seen this one, the Rider-Waite Smith. There's a 5th one. It's like the Patricia Coleman Anniversary Edition, I think it's called. But as long as it's a Rider-Waite deck, which utilizes the basic Rider-Waite symbolism, that's the important thing, because the goal is for everybody to start on the same page. You can't start to run until you learn how to walk. And for me, I have found in all the times that I've been teaching tarot, we start with learning the basics, learning what it's basically originally meant to mean. By about 6 months in, then if you want to slip off into a different deck to use for your own purposes, that's fine. But you will have the symbolism and the understanding of the meanings and imagery that is part of the Rider-Waite. So that's why I insist on that. The end of the course, if you have done everything that was requested of you, attendance in one form or another, participated in the group's discussions, did your online quiz, handed in your homework, you will get a certificate of completion. No questions asked. The additional thing I have is a tarot practical. This is not required because, again, I'm stressing, this is not a course that's meant to teach you to be a professional reader. But I was really pleased to see how many of my students last time around enjoyed taking part in this. The difference this time, what I'm going to do is I will sort of let everybody know, after having watched you work in class, in office hours, I'll see how you are able to deal with the stress of having to do a reading for somebody. The difference is I do allow people to take cheat sheets in with them. No problem. As long as you're not relying solely on cheat sheets. They've got to be just for a quick touch, a quick look. It could even be used as reinforcing to your client that this is what this card means. How does that mean to you? If you're too reliant on those cheat sheets, you're not yet ready for the practical. So I will reserve the right to make my own ideas on the selection of the students who will be invited to participate. So at the end, someone who has done so has done both all of what's required and done the practicum and done well. This is when you receive a certificate of completion with honors. And then finally, I throw a graduation party for my students, because I think when you've achieved something like getting through the tarot deck for an entire year and learned all the different ways to use it, you deserve a pat on the back and a cupcake. So there you go. That's what we'll be looking at. Are there any questions so far? Here, I'm going to admit Lisa, let her come on in. Let's open this up. Unmute everybody, see if anybody's got any questions. Actually, what I'll do is this. Stop the share for the moment. And let's unmute. Kara, how do we unmute everybody? Oh, no, that's mute all. How do we unmute everybody?
You sent it out. We do it ourselves. It came with a pop-up.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Does anybody have any questions?
What if we don't have any talent?
You believe it or not, this is not a talent. Can you read? If you can read, you can do this. Now, is everybody going to be, using clairsentience to access the guides? Probably not. But that's okay. That's not what you're doing. I would, you know what? I'm going to give you a quick, hold on 2 seconds. Find my deck.
Pat, can I speak on to that comment? It's Maria.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I took Pat's class and I feel like I had no talent. But the way Pat had this set up, I mean, it as long as you follow her slides, do the weekly questions. And I also recommend Pat recommends some books. Like if you tie like whatever that month is, like she breaks it down into so many majors each month, and then we hit the minors. But I would follow along each week if reading the book, that section of the book tied with those cards, and then actually just working with those cards. So if it's like 9 cards, work with those 9 cards for that entire month and don't worry about any of the other cards.
Yep.
I thought about that after the fact at the end when we were self-reflecting. I'm like, I wish I would have done that sooner than later, and I would have felt much better. But I mean, as long as you follow her lead and just focus each month on those particular cards, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because the beauty of it is really, it's so, I think it's next to impossible. Maybe it's just because I'm old to try to think of compressing the information on all 78 of these cards into a short period of time. To me, for the tarot to become second nature, you have to use it almost daily. And that's why I structured and built Tarot 365 to be this way. As was just mentioned, I start with chunks of stuff, chunks of information. And you get that under your belt before you bring on the next stuff. But in response to the person who said, what if you have no talent? If you looked at this card, what would you think? What would you see? Just first gut reaction. Throw some words out. I'm going to continue to hold it up. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? In. Oh, I hate the blurred background. There. What does that make you feel? What do you feel when you see that picture?
I don't know. Is that water?
Oh. Yep.
It's overflowing, cup overflowing,
Yep.
abundance. I don't know.
Yeah. You see a heart on there?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, this refers to the Ace of Cups. The cups are water. Good, well spotted, Kathleen. The cups deal with all of the emotions in life. It talks about intuition, emotion, the ability to give and receive caring and love. So just looking at that card, you got cup runneth over, and that automatically makes you think of everything is working, everything is flowing. And you didn't have a single darn lesson yet. You already got the first part of it. So it doesn't take talent. It just takes practice. Honestly, that's all it takes. I see Lisa nodding there.
Yes. And two, I think what has helped me most, Pat will tell you I was very insecure about.
I'm sorry, sweetie, you froze up. What
Okay.
you're yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was having trouble getting in, so I don't know what's on. Anyhow, what I found most helpful is doing a card a day draw and journaling about that. And how I would do that is I would draw the card and I would do just exactly what you just did. I would just look at it cold, and see what I could interpret out of that. And then I would use my source materials and kind of look at, what are the meanings in the book. But I think you have to remember and really start to trust your intuition. And it took me a while to do that. But once you do, because just because the book says the card's one thing, it may be giving you a totally different message, and you'll pick up on that as you go. You really will.
I'll
Okay.
be training you on how to trust your gut, on when to listen to your own inner voice. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions before I move on to the next section? We're good? All right. I'm going to mute everybody again. Yep. And we shall once more share the screen. And share. Okay. So now we move on to the other class, Astro 101. This is something I have been wanting to teach for a long, long time. And I hadn't been able to figure out the best format to do it in. This time last year, I was even thinking of doing an Astro 101, Astro 365, much like Tarot 365. And then I said, it's just, there's so much to learn. There's so many pieces of astrology that are technique as opposed to, using your intuition. You do use your intuition later on in the game, but you have to start with the technique first. Then I said, how can I make this accessible, more accessible? So I decided, instead of doing like every 2 weeks a class, I would do every 2 to 3 months a class and give you guys time to figure it out. So this is how it's going to be working. It's flexible because just like Tarot 365, Tarot 365, Astro 101, I put too many numbers in my titles here. These are standalone classes as opposed to a class every month, okay? And let's say, for example, you already have a pretty good knowledge of all the signs, so you may not need to take that class. I will tell you there is a benefit to cumulatively attending each one, but you don't have, okay? Secondly, they vary in time of hours. Tarot 365 runs generally for about 90 minutes. We usually start at 7 and we end at about between 8:30 and 8:45. These are anywhere from 2 to 4.5 hours in length, depending on the subject matter. Some subjects are going to be quicker to get through than others, but you'll know well enough in advance. And as I mentioned, they're roughly every 3 months. The way I've structured these 10 topics is that they are going to build on each other, starting with the very basic, then moving up and up. On October 26th is the first class. It's a short one, and it's going to be it's only $20 to attend because it's really a very quick, breezy one, but it's learning how to read your blueprint. It's learning how to understand exactly what that astrology wheel means. What am I looking at? Where do I find 11 degrees of Virgo, on my chart when I have no idea what all these squiggles and all these colors and lines and what have you are. So that's what the first class will teach. The second one will be in December, on December 8th. That one will be a little bit longer, and that one is called the signs. And the way I develop the signs is I look at them from a tribal development, the way I was taught to do so from Astrologos. So I think you'll enjoy the way the class is structured. Secondly, it's cumulative. As I said, each class builds on the next. All materials are provided for you. And this is the reason why I mentioned one of the benefits of attending all of them. By the end of the time I finish Astro 101, you will have in your hands an Astro 101 workbook complete with everything you need to know. It really is, it's useful. It'll be useful for you to go back and refer to. There'll be worksheet pages in there. There'll be data information pages, things to fill in based on your own personal chart. And it's really going to be a good way for you to get a solid understanding of the basics of astrology. And then finally, I didn't realize this. It's online. I'm sorry if it's covering you up over here. You get access to the presentation online afterwards, just as if you were on Tarot 365. There will be a section on Mighty Network that will be set aside for each of these classes, so that we'll be able to do discussions. We'll be able to take a look again at the presentation and the recording of the class. You'll be able to chat amongst yourselves with your students. I'll be offering additional information for further study. And the thing that is interesting to me is that if you choose to finish all of the classes and participate in the potential homework assignment that would only be if it's optional, then you could get a certificate of completion of Astro 101. Otherwise, there'll be simply participation certificates for each of the modules. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay. Now, some of the topic examples, as I mentioned, in December, we'll start with the signs. Then we'll move on to the houses, how they're broken down, and the cross of matter, the important parts of that. The modes and the elements, and this deals with cardinal, mutable, my brain's fried, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, there we go, and the elements of water, fire, earth, and air. The inner planets, that would be, we also have the luminaries, I didn't put those on here. The luminaries are the sun and the moon. The inner planets are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. The interpersonal planets are Jupiter and Saturn. This is where we go beyond the self. It sort of stops with Mars. And Jupiter and Saturn talk about how do we interact with other planets, which are also known as the gods of change. Uranus, Neptune, and yes, Pluto is a planet. Then finally, we'll deal with the main aspects, and I'll probably throw in a last class of putting it all together. So in other words, when we sit down, we will be going through the charts of famous people with each one of these classes so that you can see how each of these sections reflect in a real person's chart. Okay? So the way these charts are structured, again, they'll be either in person, online via Zoom like this, or via recording for attendance. The online participation is voluntary. You don't have to participate if you don't want that final cumulative certificate of completion. But there will be discussion questions offered. I will probably offer reading options for other books that you might utilize to further your knowledge. There'll be questions and answers you can ask me, and we'll post those on online in the section, and networking opportunities with your fellow students. We also have the idea of the homework option. This is, again, not required unless you want to finish the entire Astro 101 course. But it can definitely be a lot of fun to be able to utilize this to further your own knowledge. I could be wrong. My students that are here on the call from Tarot 365 may tell you that after they did the homework assignment, they probably understood more of what they had learned because they were able to put it to use. Because that's what I try to make my homework assignments do. Put the learning to use. Now I'm going to stop the share and open it up to anybody's questions. And feel free to unmute your mic and let me know if you have a question.
Hey, it's crazy me, Maria, who lives and
Maria.
dies by my calendar. Do you have any other dates picked yet other than October and December?
I don't. I will have a better idea as we get further along, Maria.
Okay.
I can give you rough ideas of the months that we're looking at.
Okay.
It will almost always be a Saturday or a Sunday.
Cool.
Because that's for that. A tarot is always on Thursday evenings, but the Astro classes are probably going to be on the weekend because they can be longer in length. So let me see, syllabus. Nope, that's the astrology. Okay, what I'll do, I'll have to get that posted. I'll find it and get it posted up online, Maria. But I know what you're saying about living by your calendar. We're busy people, but they're spaced about 3 months apart.
Okay.
So you can go by that as a guideline.
And then I have one more question. What did you call the sun and the moon? What kind
The
of
luminaries, the
Luminaries.
lights of the sky. Yep. Oh, that's the other thing. There'll be a glossary in your Astro 101 materials, and that will be updated with each class so that it'll get longer and longer and longer.
So how thick of a notebook do we need to get?
Honestly, I would say you're probably going to be looking at about that much
A
in
two
terms of
inch
handout.
or even three? Okay.
Yep.
I
'Cause,
already got mine. Wait till you see it.
Yay!
It has astrology all over it.
I love it. I love it. Now this is a class that is really close to my heart. I love tarot. Don't get me wrong. It was the first thing I learned how to do. But astrology is what I feel like my calling is. So I'm going to be really working hard at making sure I make this as accessible and as useful to everybody as we possibly can. And if this first round goes well, now it's going to take us more than a year to get through all of these, just so you're aware. But if this goes well, then I'll be doing a secondary set of like 201, 202. And this is where we'll be looking at things like relationship astrology. How do you and your partner interact with each other? Children's charts, looking at predictive astrology, looking at karmic astrology, the concept of being able to look at the chart and see from the concept of past lives what you brought in with you in this particular incarnation. It's fascinating stuff. Vocational astrology, working with electional. I'm learning about horary astrology, which is a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll have enough done by the time we do that I can teach you, because it's a little different. You can literally ask a question and you answer the question based on the chart you pull up. It's a little different than regular esoteric astrology, but it's fascinating. Any other questions?
Will you be
Yeah,
doing
Pat.
a,
Oh,
go ahead,
okay.
Suzanne.
oh, I just wondered, it was cut off and I couldn't tell if there was a statement in there that said each class, like what the tuition will be. Did that
Roughly,
say
it's
something?
I'm trying to remember. Do you recall, Kara?
Could you repeat it?
Suzanne was wondering what the basic tuition was. Didn't I think it was somewhere around 75 per class?
For the Tarot 365?
No, for Astro 101. Except for that first one, which is only 20.
Right.
I'm thinking it was either
Oh.
65 or 75 because I have to create all the materials for it.
Lana's area.
Hmm. I'll see if I can get that answer for you, Suzanne. Okay.
That's fine. I didn't see it on there and
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't $20. So
You got that right. Oh, you got that right. Yeah, the first one's a little bit of a giveaway, although you will be getting materials as well in that one. So
Suzanne
Okay,
is
thank
going to ask my questions for calendar and cost. But I was wondering, I didn't hear you say anything about a quiz. Is there a quiz with this after each
No.
session? Like, okay,
No.
phew, that's a little more relief.
If you do, the homework assignment will be the sort of like the quiz. It will show me your understanding of the material. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it a bad idea to take Tarot 365 and Astro 101 at the same time?
I don't think so, because as I say, the Astro 360, Astro 101, astrology, let's just do it that way. The astrology is going to be, as I said, every 3 months or so. By the time we get to the third class, it'll be March, you'll be almost 2/3 of the way finished with tarot by that point in time.
Okay.
And you don't, it's, each, I speak for a living. Each of the sections for astrology, for each one of the classes, will be open as long as you need it to be open. So it's not like you have a limited time to learn the material and then play with the material. It will be there for you. Okay?
Thank you.
Do we think we have all the questions answered?
Yeah, it looks like I don't see any more in the chat. Of course, if anyone wants to put something in the chat, please make sure you do. If you'd like to, I'm happy to relay that question. If you don't want to be seen or heard, that's perfectly understandable. I'm grateful that, some of the Tarot 365 students are here.
I am too. Yes.
It was such a joy this last year to watch the amazing, not only you as an amazing instructor, Pat, but watching everyone learn and be excited in the
Oh.
discussions and the amazing community and the connections that were made. That's part of what Firefly is about too, that even if you're going to be online, the hybrid, maybe in person sometimes or always online, there's such a need for connecting in the intuitive arts and learning more about yourself, but also through the reflection of others and connecting with your tribe and community. So I'm really honored and grateful, Pat, for you to be leading these classes, and then again, bringing opportunities for us to connect and dive deeper into our souls and the esoterics of everything.
This is so much fun. You have no idea. This is everything I wanted to retire to do, so I couldn't be happier. I'm going to make note of that, getting at least months up for you in terms of when we plan to have the other classes, Maria, but also Suzanne and Lisa. I'll also look up. I know I wrote the prices down. I'm pretty sure it was 75 because you're going to get a lot more handouts than you would have in Tarot 365. There's a lot more preparation that goes in, believe it or not. Lisa watched me prep for all of the classes for Tarot 365. Imagine that times 3. This is why I'm giving myself time between each one of the classes.
Does that mean I'm
Okay.
getting my proofreading job back?
No, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
And then the
Well,
question I have a question here.
Go
We have a
ahead.
couple questions. So the signing up on the Firefly Hollow website is absolutely, you can sign up on the Firefly Hollow website for Tarot 365 for the year. If you are doing monthly payments, give us a call because we do have to set up payment structure for that. With to get a credit card on file, and we'll just be charging it at the first day of the month every time. Even if you're not able to be there in person or you don't show up, you can't show up for that particular class, we will charge that every month on the first day of the class. So that's all we need to setting up for payment plan, but you can sign up and pay in full through the website. And then what are the chances you're doing another Astrology 101 next year? From Lori.
No, because this one's probably going to take a good 2 years to complete. If you figure there's 10 to 11 workshops every 3 months, it's probably going to be 2026, the spring of 2026 before this is complete. So no, I won't be teaching another one. I'm
Now,
going to be
if we're
70 by then. Give me a break.
just a question. Now, if we're recording all of those classes, and they will be
Mhm.
available up afterwards, solo, evergreen meaning whenever, if you're like, hey, I'm halfway into May, I think I want to take this next astrology class. Let me catch up on the other 2 that have already happened. You're able to purchase those and watch those, do them on your own time. And, and again, because there is 3 months between, there is absolutely the possibility of that. So I just wanted to
Absolutely.
reiterate that too.
Oh, and let me take that thought and expand just a little bit, Kara. Remember how I mentioned if you do want to do all of them and you get the full certificate of completion of Astro 101, you'll need to get in touch with me if you're like coming in later and catching up, because you will have to complete those homework assignments in order to show me that you have a good grasp of the material. Okay? Does that make sense? Beautiful. All right, I guess that does it then. I am really excited. I'm truly, truly looking forward to this next iteration of Tarot 365. Kara, do we have any problem with our Tarot 365 from the previous cohort visiting every once in a while, coming in and being auditing if they'd like to?
I think
No,
that
I
would be
think-
fantastic. I'm sure
Yeah.
the students would love to do that.
Yeah,
And
so
yeah. It really was a
excellent.
great
Good.
group.
Oh, I see that they have become lifelong friends as a result of some of these folks. I just loved, I had 2 men in the group, and I loved watching those guys really come into their own. So
Yes.
that was a lot of fun for me because everybody always assumes it's going to be women at the group. They were good readers, right, guys?
Yep.
I'll tell you, it was good. All right. Well, if no one has any further questions, then I think we can call it a night. All righty.
Thanks so much, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And if anyone has any
Thank
further
you.
questions, please email us or email Pat directly.
Yep.
And we will relay those questions. You can, of course, send them to you. Send us any way that you would, texting us, calling us, emailing us, Facebook Messenger, that we'll all get in all the different ways and we can refer them to you, Pat.
I just thought of something too. Something Alana, our wonderful, magnificent virtual assistant, who I swear has saved our lives. She's amazing. She let me know that one of you, I think it was you, Lori, who had wanted to try to get into the platform for Tarot 365. I will have everything ready for people to jump in online as of Monday. So we can let people know that they'll be able to get in online. I'll have the same layout like I did last time. I did the video that explains where everything is and all of that stuff. So you can, if you've signed up for this upcoming Tarot 365, you should be able to get in as of Monday. All right?
Great.
All righty then.
Yay.
Well, thank you.